Tonight, the shelling continues, and there appears to be no end in sight to the Hamas-Israeli conflict, the third war in 5 years. And he did it again. Our President Barack Obama and his trusty sidekick, Secretary of State John Kerry, made us look ridiculous on the world stage. Orchestrating a ceasefire, believing a terrorist organization would be true to its promise of a 72-hour ceasefire, which of course Hamas broke in 90 minutes, reminding the world yet again that we either don't know what we're doing, don't know who our friends are, or are actually switching sides. The sad part is that the ceasefire would have allowed humanitarian aid to the Palestinians caught in the crossfire. And sadly, today a UN school was hit and the lives of innocents lost because Hamas uses children as shields, hiding their weapons behind the victims and thus baiting the enemy. And our leader-in-chief has the chutzpah to chastise Prime Minister Netanyahu for the disproportionate loss of life, not unlike this UN High Commissioner for the Human Rights. This genius.
They've also provided almost $1 billion in providing the Iron Domes to protect Israelis from the rocket attacks, but no such protection has been provided to Gazans against the shelling.
It's almost as though she and our president are saying, it's not fair, Israel. You are winning the war. More people are dying on the other side than yours, so stop it. And when Israel does, Hamas attacks. It ignores the reality that terrorist organizations do not honor ceasefires. Hamas has broken every ceasefire it said it would honor. But should we be surprised? Hamas is labeled a terrorist organization by our own State Department. It is the outgrowth of the Muslim Brotherhood, a partner of Iran, the enemy of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and moderate Arab states. But then again, how could we possibly expect our president to know what's going on? He's the one who said this.
So let there be no doubt. The tide of war is receding. And today, Al-Qaeda is on its heels, and Osama bin Laden is no more.
The world is less violent than it has ever been. It is healthier than it has ever been. It is more tolerant than it has ever been.
What planet is he living on? Instead, it's just the opposite. Al-Qaeda is bigger than ever. ISIS, Hamas, Iran, all gaining power while our president dithers on whether to impose sanctions for violations of his own red lines. So will it ever stop? How can it? The Hamas Charter demands that every Jew be killed. And while our do-nothing president golfs and plays pool and goes to fundraisers, he quietly negotiates with Iran, allowing them to continue their nuclear buildup, bringing them closer to attaining the nuclear bomb that Iran intends to use against Israel. It's not going to stop because our president turns tail and runs out of Iraq, leaving it open to ISIS. You know, the group that kills their fellow Muslims, beheading them, destroying Christian churches and threatening them to leave the country or killing them if they don't. It's not going to stop because our president supported President Morsi, who after his election imposed Sharia law, suspended the Constitution. And even 35 million Egyptians, most of them Muslims, had the backbone to stand up to President Morsi and his Muslim Brotherhood. The same group that our president invited to sit in the first 2 rows of his speech in Cairo in 2009. It's no wonder that the world thinks we're bumblers. It was Barack Obama and his then Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, who negotiated a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel 2 years ago, convincing Israel to take down a blockade so that Hamas could build schools and hospitals for Palestinians. 500,000 tons of cement later were then used by Hamas to build steel-reinforced subterranean tunnels, the most sophisticated in the world, from which terrorists wearing counterfeit Israeli uniforms could handcuff, kidnap, and slaughter Jews. The naive assumption that our administration is operating under is that if you just give a terrorist organization what it wants and try to understand their grievances, the conflict will be over. It's like saying, if we just sat down with the Boston bombers, they wouldn't have killed so many of us. Hamas is not a political party. They are not soldiers. They are terrorists. Most Arab states agree, as evidenced by the silence and lack of support to Hamas by Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates. Hamas's chant, "From river to sea," is a reminder of their intent to eliminate Israel.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free!
From river to sea. Creating a Palestinian state is one thing, and it's altogether different from destroying a democratic one. The fact that our president does not seem to understand the difference is in itself a danger zone for all Americans.